best minds that we had in regard to the budgetary process. Chaired, of course, by Jeff Henseling from Texas, one of my classmates. And I honestly believed, I hoped, and prayed that the super committee would come up to make an agreement so we wouldn't be in this position of sequester. But my vote all along was for cut, cap, and balance. Cut the spending, or cut the deficit, cap the spending, and balance the budget. And balance the budget even stronger than the balanced budget proviso bill that lost by one vote in 1996. Many members will say, oh, you don't need a balanced budget. The Congress can balance the budget. They have the ability to do that. Well, guess what? The favorite expression these days. Guess what? Since 1996, the debt of this country has increased by $9 trillion. So much for the members of Congress having the ability and the spine to balance the budget. They won't do it. And a lot of members, you might say, well, how in the world could anybody, the states have to do it, how in the world could anybody be opposed to a balanced budget? Well, you just think about it. Think about New York. Think about maybe New Jersey. Think about California. Think about a lot of these blue states that get a tremendous amount of that borrowed money into their coffers. If a federal government had to balance its budget, they would have to take a tremendous hit and tighten their belts a lot more than they've been doing. So that's part of the opposition. Did we have one more question or time for one more?
We got one more, but I'd like to offer another one for consideration. Sure. I know this is kind of radical, and Democrats would find it blasphemous, and even some Republicans might need to be persuaded, but Article 1, Section 8 outlines what the federal government can and can't do, so just by limiting the federal government to those functions, we wouldn't have to worry about cutting defense.
Well, I think you made a great point, and quite honestly, as the debates began for the Republican nominee for our next president, I didn't pay enough attention to Ron Paul. Ron Paul is a fellow physician, a member, OBGYN, that served much, much longer than I have. He's a young 75 years old and has in the past represented very strongly the Libertarian Party, but he's a Republican. And a lot of the things that Ron Paul has had to say in regard to Article 1, Section 8, the Constitution in general, the 4th Amendment, the 10th Amendment, we need to listen to very carefully. And I think we are listening to it. I think it's making the other candidates, who, let's face it, are much more likely to be the one. And I think, as I said at the outset, that's either Speaker Gingrey or Governor Romney. But Ron Paul has pushed them and this country in the right direction. I commend him.
All right, Hayden, did he already leave? All right, Deborah.
I would like to know, after we help Obama pack his bags and we take back the full Congress, what is the plan for getting the Keystone Pipeline back in the legislature and doing something about the energy policy?
Well, you know, the State of the Union address Tuesday night was the most absurd, nothing speech that I think that I have ever heard. I mean, the mendacity, hypocrisy, whatever word you want to use, we all, were asked to comment on the State of the Union by the media immediately afterward, the so-called press availability. Typically, when the State of the Union, this is my 10th, and I used to enjoy him when George W. Bush was president. I haven't enjoyed him very much at all in the last 3 years, but they would hand out the speech. We had to be, to get a decent seat, you have to be in the chamber at least an hour before the president arrives. And so you're sitting there, and in the past, the opportunity to read the speech and think about, and maybe even make notes in the margin in regard to how you would respond to the liberal media's questions of why you don't like the president's speech. We weren't given that at all, ever. So you know, to try to remember a 50-minute speech in every talking point, but the question, obviously, in regard to Keystone Pipeline, you know, I don't think he said anything about Keystone Pipeline, Keystone XL in the speech, nor did he say very much about Obamacare. You noticed there was not a whole lot of discussion about health care because it still remains the most unpopular piece of legislation maybe that the Congress has ever passed, some almost 2 years since March of 2010. So we will, I can assure you, you're talking about 20,000 direct jobs, 118,000 indirect jobs. You're talking about us owning our own energy economy and the security issue involved. And now Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister of Canada, is saying, well, you know, look, if we can't go south, we'll just go west, and we'll sell this product to the Chinese, and then we'll end up buying it for somebody else, eventually Venezuela. I mean, you can connect the dots, and for President Obama to have the unmitigated gall to say that he didn't have enough time, 2 months was not enough time, so therefore he was going to put it off until he was going to turn it down and revisit it after the election very conveniently. Yeah, we'll get the Keystone Pipeline. We just need the White House first.
All right, we're going to go ahead and close questioning with that. The Congressman is going to be staying around afterwards, so if any of you have additional questions, you feel free to stay around and talk to them. Congressman, thank you so much.
Lewis, thank you very much, and I'll give this to you if anybody wants to use it. It worked for me. Thank you. Thank you.